Greetings, fellow traders. Bubblehead here, and it's time for the Lunchtime Market Update for Wednesday, December 11th, 2019, brought to you by Positive Trends Research. Before we get started, everything we're going to talk about today is for educational purposes only and not investment advice, so please take a moment to review this disclaimer. All right, let's check and see where we're at with the market here today. So, wow, pretty choppy day, narrow range, right, as we would expect, pre-Fed 8.77 points. So at 2 o'clock today, we're going to be probably going live in the private Twitter feed with our group to just kind of track to see what the Fed's up to, see if there's any setups that happen after that, and of course through the press conference call at 2:30 to see if we there's any indication of dovishness or hawkishness into the future, which may get the market moving again here. So we'll see. It's not anticipated to be any changes. So really the press conference is probably going to be the big one today to see any sort of moves. So we'll see if that anything comes out of that. But right now it doesn't feel like the Fed is really as important as it used to be. Back 6 months ago when Jerome Powell would talk, right, the market would really get going. Really now it seems to all be coming down to that the trade deal tweets and talks and things like that. So other than that, let's see where we're at right here. So obviously the upward trend line here on the daily, right? And again, we broke down here, held this trend box. We're just kind of chopping around the trend box now. It'd be interesting if there was some bullishness out of the Fed and we got out of the trend box and then switched the trend line up. But for some reason, it just doesn't feel that way. But we shall see. So let's take a look at how the price action is today. So the 15-minute orb, that was pretty much a really strong candle right here that showed there was a potential to get to the next level up, and it did that today. And then look at that big topping tail right at yesterday's highs right there. So lots of selling pressure in this area. So anytime you see that big topping tail, boom, nice move down, flushed all the way to the 15 orb high, and then all the way back to the 15 orb low with a couple lower shadows right there. So pretty impressive stuff. Before we get to chart requests, just want to go over a couple different ones that were interesting today. So Boeing was definitely on the radar this morning. It was gapping down on some news. And look at that, big push down. We walked through this at the open. So we go live at the open with our group, right? We, for basically from 9:15 to around 10:30, sometimes a little bit longer. We walk through setups and different price action on our go-to list and also our gapper list, our 15 orb list, things like that. So we looked through a 1-point move to the downside on this one today. So that was a nice move there. And then Boeing was kind of chopping. And then it finally decided to reverse up this way here. So that's one of the big movers today. Another one, Apple, definitely been on the radar for potential. I've been tweeting out levels in the morning, and you can see that was really the big one that it got to today, was that all-time high. And then once it tagged that, it was done. It did not want to close bullishly above that. In fact, put an upper shadow right there along the same time that SPX was getting weak too. So you can see that kind of worked its way back down. Now it's holding the 15 orb highs. So those are kind of the two. And then Tesla. How can we not see Tesla? So one of the big things with Tesla, right? Big follow through today from yesterday's amazing move, right? Big up move yesterday, and then a nice follow through today as it got over the pre-market highs and the 15 orb up today. One of the big things with the daily chart too is it entered into the gap, right? That's one of the big factors with Tesla yesterday and its breakout move. So big stuff there, really, really important stuff. So other ones that were on the list today was Ollie. Some of our members actually did a lotto trade on this one yesterday and had success on it. We don't do too many lottos, overnight into earnings, right? It's too much risk, but it's sometimes it's fun to see when members succeed and have a great trade like this. So Ollie had a really fantastic move up yesterday, and it's interesting how it's not really doing too much of a gap and go here because it did gap above. Some major levels right here. So there's just a lot of gap resistance right here, so it's just having trouble filling that, right? So it's not an all-time high gap and go, but it is pretty reasonable for a gap and go, right? Got over these levels and then gave a nice push to the upside. That was through those 15-minute orb levels, like right through there, boom. And then, of course, you had that resistance right here of the aftermarket levels from after earnings. Another one that was pretty interesting that was on the radar today was this children's place, right? And so pretty interesting. It gapped way down, right? And look at that, nice momentum move through its pre-market lows, and that was one of the things that we looked at and pointed out this morning as well. And then finally, just one of the ones that's kind of interesting today is Uber, right? Lots of call sweeps, no real news on it, but lots of call sweeps going on in this one. You can see it did decide to break out the 15 orb there and got through some major resistance there. So that was kind of one of the big ones as well. Okay, so at this point, we have a couple of chart requests that came through. Let's take a look at Team, T-E-A-M. Okay, that was an interesting one, right? So really bearish day today, right? 15 orb down, of course, for the day trading side of it. But what was the key factor? What was the clue, right? That kind of showed that this thing was ready to go, right? Well, one of our members actually pointed this out last night. So one of the things that we like, right, was yesterday was a nice bearish engulfing day, right? Around, basically engulfed the entire day. The candle engulfed the entire prior day, right? And it broke down below this pitchfork level. Now the pitchfork level, you don't have to have these up, but I do like to have them because they do show very, very interesting levels of support and resistance, right? And if you haven't seen this video yet, definitely check out our YouTube page and look for the 3-minute series and look for videos there, right? So I've got the pitchfork in there. But anyway, from this low to this significant high to that significant pivot low, right, we have this pitchfork right here. So that shows good areas of support and resistance, okay? But that's not really the main level, right? A couple another one is that we came back into this channel, right? We have this corrective channel right here. We tried to break out of it, couldn't do it. Back into this channel down here, right? So that gave another move too. Now let's look at the candlesticks on this one. So this is important. This is really the most important one right here. So we were below both the 50-day moving average and the 200-day moving average right here. I don't have the 50 up here, but it was a death cross right there. So you can kind of see that going on with your moving averages. And then yesterday's close was increased volume and below both of these key candle tails right here. And when we closed below that, we closed below the pitchfork, right? This is and got back into the channel, right? It was a recipe for success to the short side. Again, my first target would have been the cloud low right here, and then once it lost the cloud, it took that out, right? And now it's finding support at these levels right here. So big move on team today. So hopefully that adds some clarity to that one. MTZ. Okay, here's another interesting one, right? So this is really, really bullish as it got out of the cloud recently. It hasn't been able to hold that, right? So here we go. We have our high right here. There's a level, right? Minor pivot right here. Here's your trend box, right? Okay, so really what we look for there is a bearish close below the trend box or a bullish close above it, right, to shift that trend line. And so this is your kind of the first shot across the bow here. Right now it did hold the cloud pretty well, and then it kind of chopped around again, right? So technically you could call this an extension of the trend box, right, because it was holding trend. So if we activate that and just push that down there, now we have this minor pivot right here, and then we look for a bearish close below that. And you can see that right here off of the upper shadow, and then it's kind of just been working its way back down. So 200-day moving average is definitely in sight on MTZ. And final chart request here that we had is blue. So blue is really, really interesting, right? We've been tracking this one. Had a couple requests on this one yesterday. We avoided it yesterday as a swing long just because we were closed below this minor pivot right here. Okay, so that was kind of the key one. We had some cloud resistance. Now today it gapped up, and once it pushed through there, that was a momentum move to the upside. And you can see here, on the 15-minute chart, that gave a real big move, cleared its pre-market levels, and gave a real nice move to the upside. Now it's kind of reversed off and kind of chopping in the 15-minute orb right here. So we'll see if that gets any further follow through. Again, let's see what the Fed does today. We have an upper shadow right here at these resistance levels. So that's the next kind of level up right here, right, where we want to see. Now, if it could get above that, maybe we'll chop for a couple days. If it gets above that and gets above the cloud, then we could see a cloud break as well as a level break too. So a couple key things going on there with blue. Well, great stuff, guys. I hope everybody has a safe rest of your trading day. Remember, Fed day today, so don't overtrade, right? It could be choppy all the way up to 2 o'clock. And even after 2 o'clock, if there's really not expecting any sort of rate changes, that might be choppy. So we really need to see what they say at 2:30. Last Fed was pretty boring. So, but again, it's still the market still gets nervous before it because you never know what can happen. So, all right, guys, I hope everybody enjoys the rest of your day and have a safe one. And remember your risk first and stay safe so you can stay in the game. And I'll talk to you soon.